Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Spring Blossom Green Tea by Simpson and Vale. I know it's not spring or anywhere near spring right now, but it's a good green tea, so floral and everything. And look, cats, because why not? So I thought I'd do like a little mid-month wrap-up, check-in and whatever, and it's a little past mid-month, but that's okay, right? I've only finished 3 books so far this month. I am in the middle of quite a few other ones, but these are the only ones I've actually made it to the end so far. So I guess we just talk about that right now. And so the first one is a buddy read, and it was a pretty short book, so it didn't take that long really. This is 3 Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome, which is a late Victorian comic novel. It's all I've ever heard is how very funny it is, and it is funny. It is quite funny. I feel like I wanted to be laughing more from reading it, but I generally just thought it was amusing. And that's okay. It's okay. That's still good, but I don't know, maybe I think I had higher expectations for it than I expected. I still rate it quite high. It's about these 3 men who decide to take a boat ride after they've been sitting around being quite hypochondriacs. They all seem to have ailments that they just came up with, and they realize they just need to get away. So it's all about their kind of adventures and things that happen to them as they take this boat on the Thames for a little ride, and the packing that goes into it, and the people they meet along the way, and there's also a dog that is with them, and all the little incidents, you know, with weather, with just various areas that they go to. I sometimes had trouble remembering when they were going into a story about something else. So they would be going somewhere, and Jay, the narrator, would start telling a story about something that had happened to one or both or 3 of them previously. And it would take me a while before I realized it wasn't happening in real time. It was happening, or present time, it happened in the past. So I had to get used to that, but it was still pretty funny. They're talking about someone, I think a relative, who was trying to hang, was it a relative or someone who was trying to hang a painting or a print or something, and all the complications that went with that. Or when they had present day things, when they were trying to open a tin of pineapples, which was really funny. One time when they were getting close to Hampton Court, there's a story about how when one of them went to Hampton Court Palace, that there's a maze there, and he had some kind of guide or a map or something, and so he went in there and started to lead the way, and everybody in the maze got more lost than they had been previously. So it was pretty funny. It just regular people getting into all kinds of nonsense, and yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I also enjoyed the little musings that Jay would have upon like history and stuff out of nowhere. Like at one point he was just talking about things that existed, you know, for everyday use in the past, that are now decorative items that are well regarded, and he was like, I wonder if the things that we use, you know, nowadays that we take for granted, what will they think of them in the year 2000? And I just got surprised at year 2000, because, you know, when it's a year you actually remember, it's like, wow. But so I had a good time. I'm glad I read it. I just wasn't on the floor laughing, but I am glad I read it, and it made me remember how much I enjoy Victorian novels of all kinds, and how I am actually looking forward to Victober. Veering off from that, I found this book recently. My most local library, the one that I've gone to for many, many years, not the ones in Manhattan, but the ones in my borough of Queens. The most local one to me had been closed since COVID, and yeah, and so if I wanted to put a hole in a book, or, you know, in Queens, I had to go to this one that is quite a distance from me. When I say quite a distance, it's a nice healthy walk on a nice day, but it is quite a walk. Otherwise I'd take public transportation. It just doesn't make sense to do that when I could just go to Manhattan when I go into the office. But okay, so finally this place near me reopened, and I was very glad to go in there. I had put a book on hold, and I went to pick it up. And so I also did a little bit of browsing, because I love browsing. I love browsing so much. And I found this book in the large print section. which I hadn't heard of before that I know of. And it was written, I think 2007, it said. It's No, I Don't Want to Join a Book Club, Diary of a 60th Year by Virginia Ironside. So this is about a character named Marie Sharp, who, which I didn't realize from reading it, it takes place in London. It's like, even when I'm not looking for London, I find it. But Marie is, in the beginning of this story, about to turn 60, so she decides to keep a diary. She's retiring. I think she was like a teacher, art teacher or something. And she has a cat, which I liked in the story. She has this cat named Pouncer, a ginger cat in the front. And she's not dreading turning 60. She's actually looking forward to, first of all, you get, apparently over there, you get a lot of benefits, like free underground train rides and I think free prescriptions, stuff like that. So I mean, that's pretty cool. But she doesn't understand everybody who's giving her suggestions about what to do now that you're this age, whatever. She or people who resist, you know, who get upset about getting older. She's more accepting of it and actually looking forward to it in some ways. There's certain pressures that aren't put on you at certain ages or whatever. And then she finds out she's going to be a grandmother, and that also changes a lot of her perspective and her few directions in life. And so not a lot particularly happens, just, you know, time that she spends with her friends and neighbors and relatives, and couple of even dates she goes on. I think she realizes she's on dates sometimes, but and you know, she does have to deal with certain people she's close to getting really sick, so it's not entirely just, you know, just cheerful comedy moments, but it's mainly a pretty entertaining story. I didn't love it because it was a little too much on like the sex talk. I'm not really into that, you know. I don't need to hear about that by anyone of any age. Just a lot of conversation about that, a lot of language that I'm just like a little too much for me, you know. You know, everybody else might consider that not a problem. I did read some reviews by other readers. This book didn't get like amazing reviews online. Although there were a number of books that came after it, so it was part of a short series, so it couldn't have been absolutely hated when it came out. But some people were criticizing the fact that she's very, you know, inappropriate things that she says about people of different backgrounds or whatever. And to a point, yes, I do agree. There were certain moments in there that she says things that I was like, ooh. But it's supposed to be a diary. So I don't, you know, people do have, I guess, their thoughts. And she wasn't like this horrible, racist, you know, horrible person. Just that she would sometimes see certain people, like for instance, I think she was on a plane or something and she saw someone who made her a little bit uneasy. And considering this was a couple of years after London did actually deal with terrorist attacks in the train system, I kind of am like, well, if you were around during that time, which I was, I mean, I wasn't turning 60, but I was probably, I guess, in my early 30s at that time, I know what happened. I know what was going on. So you know, I can understand having those feelings, but I mean, there's a difference between feeling away and acting on it. But I can see how some people might find that offensive. There's also moments where she was thinking about her, you know, grandchild to be, and worrying that they might be autistic or something like that. You know, that can be a little bit offensive. So I can't really 100% say, oh my goodness, this is a great book. I utterly recommend it. But it wasn't a bad, quick read. And I am always interested in reading books about people of different age groups too, because a lot of the main characters one reads about tend to be of a younger age, 30 or under. Not only, but, you know, a lot. I mean, just coming out of Jane Austen July, which I loved so much, but what was it, the oldest character, besides Lady Susan, the oldest protagonist of Jane Austen's novels was in her late 20s. You know, it can be sometimes where it's great to read about that, because, you know, one does have one's whole life ahead of them, so it is kind of interesting. But sometimes it's nice to hear perspectives of people who have lived their lives and have thoughts, and they may not have decades and decades ahead of them. They still have life to them. So it is nice in that sense to find books like this. But some things may be objectionable to some people, including myself. So it wasn't like my top regarded book this month, and you know, even probably not. But I did think I would read just one passage, and it is one of the entries. It says, "Is there actually anything wrong these days with the word old? I wonder. I was in Waterstones today and saw a book that was a compilation of quotes from people over 60 with the unbelievable title, Late Youth. What are all these euphemisms? I even heard people talk of the autumn of life. I'm starting to think that old is becoming a dirty word. While I quite understand why we should avoid using certain words, not using the word old seems as coy and ludicrous as Victorians putting skirts on their piano legs because they felt so uncomfortable at the sight of them. Though I was rather touched by Huey, character in the book, who the other day described James' aunt of 95 as very grown up indeed." So I kind of get that, although I don't mind autumn of life, because I usually like the season of autumn. But I do agree in that sense, is that people are very corrective of don't go after people for their demographic, their background, their this, their that. But people will make commentary on people for being older, and it's like, you know, just remember, if you don't die, you're gonna age yourself. So it shouldn't be something that is looked upon as, I mean, in a negative way. Not that people like aging, but you know what I mean. A little bit of a tangent there, but last but not least, I read a history book. I meant to start this for, the last part of August, where there's a focus on reading history books, and I do intend to read more history books, I hope, but I started this a little bit early, and I have no problem with that, and it's Foundation, The History of England from Its Earliest Beginnings to the Tudors by Peter Ackroyd, who I quite like as a writer. And it's just, it's basically that. It starts from like prehistoric times, which I didn't find that interesting, to be honest. The only thing I did find interesting about it is just certain patterns. And he gets into, the earliest times from what very little they know, up until like, Celtic times, Roman Britain, and then of course the Anglo-Saxons that came in during that time, and then eventually the Viking invasions, and then the Norman invasion, and up until the like I said, the beginning, to the Tudors. So it ends with Henry VII's reign. So it gets into the Tudors a little bit, and so I didn't mind some of the beginning bits, but mainly I did like some of the parts with the Saxon time period, because I know a little less of that than I know of a lot of English history. And I did like the pointing out of certain places that basically exist now still, or that are just built on. For instance, he mentions like there's a lot of, especially like religious institutions that are there and that were probably in existence in some form for as long as one can remember, but they can't do archaeological digs because there is something actively there on that site that they can't dig up. So, yeah, but, so I've always thought it interesting, the correlation between archaeology and history. But yeah, so it's like there's a lot of things that, I mean, obviously so much has changed in these many years, but there are some things in England and probably elsewhere that are just, not just buildings, but just customs and ways and thoroughfares, etc., that have just sort of built on each other. So, and almost not every chapter, but many chapters will kind of end with things that were introduced in England during that time, like the handkerchief or rabbits, stuff like that. This is when this started happening here. And I like that, and it also cuts in between the history of like the kings of England. So far it's only been kings, I think. With just the daily life, you know, educational systems, what people were eating, what people, you know, different transactions, different ways of communicating, all the little things that are very important to life, but that aren't always mentioned in every single history book. So I like that interspersing, and I do look forward to. I did read I'm pretty sure the book I read in this group is the book that comes after this. So I have a couple more to read, and the last one is coming out in September, I think. So yeah, it does give me something fun to look forward to amongst all the many books I have to read. So yeah, that is all for the books that I read so far in August. I meant to do other videos, but I haven't been feeling really wonderful this month, and in different ways that I don't want to really get into. But I've also noticed there's quite a few people who have been maybe making fewer videos, etc. And you know, August is a very typical vacation month for many people. So it's not necessarily that I've been taking vacation from making videos, but I mean, is it so bad that, you know, that one takes a little bit of a break? I don't think so. I just haven't had extremely much to talk about, or things I had that were ideas I just haven't put together just because of not feeling great. And also, to just get complainy now, I have new neighbors. I'm going to say it very low now. I used to have a neighbor, actually, that used to talk like that when she talked about anybody on the block. Her voice would get this, like, really low gossip tone. But, and I don't really know them yet, but they live right above me, and they have taken to playing music quite loud at different times. And often when I have been thinking about making videos, they'll do it right above this room, with heavy bass, which I cannot stand. And if I want to read in here, I suppose I could put on noise-canceling headphones, though it just seems ridiculous to have to put them on in my own home. But in order to make a video, I don't, you know, obviously there is, you know, distractions in the realm of noise, because I am in a room that is closest to street traffic, so you will hear motors going by and people's voices as I talk, but that's just everyday life. But the music, I don't know, maybe I am getting, you know, a bit whatever I am, curmudgeonly or something, but it's just, come on. I don't mind hearing a little bit of music playing, like, you know, you can hear that little dull hum of music, that's normal, but it hasn't put me in the best opinion of people that I've barely met. I don't know, they could be really nice otherwise, but, you know. Anyway, so on that cranky note, that's all for now. I hope to come back again with some more videos about books and other matters, but mostly books. So for now, okay, before I end this video, I'll show you the other side of this mug, because it has a cat that looks quite like Zenobia, so I wonder why I got this. I actually got it after going to Tea and Sympathy. Yes, they're very good at spacing things out, so it's one of the few places that I can feel comfortable going to, but they have a little shop next door that sells a few things, and I wasn't going to get anything really, but then I saw this and I was like, welp. So that's all for now. I hope you guys have been doing well. Let me know what you think of these books and other things. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day.